What's happening, Who Dat Nation? Welcome into today's show. I'm your host, Trace Gerard. We're going to be getting into a mailbag where we're going to be answering your questions from our bi-weekly live show. But before we get to that, let's talk about Mark Ingram and whether or not he would be a good fit and it would make sense for the Saints to bring him back. Mark Ingram, he made it known that he wants to return for his 13th NFL season yesterday. And so what his last 4 years have looked like, it's been on the decline. It's been up, it's been down, it's been left and right, but it's been mostly on the decline. So in 2019, he had 202 carries, 1,018 yards, 5 yards per tote, and 10 touchdowns on the ground. 2020, you saw the production dip substantially, 72 carries, 299 yards, 4.2 yards per tote, and 2 touchdowns. You saw it go up again in 2021, but then you saw it go back down again in 2022. And obviously, a lot of people are upset about how the Bucs game ended with Mark Ingram. A lot of people don't know this, but he was hurt, and he got hurt during that play, and that just kind of was the end of it, and that's why he ran out of bounds. But it'd be like that. So in terms of pros and cons for why Mark Ingram would make sense to come back. So I think it would make sense for some reason. I think there's a good argument for it not to make sense. He is a great locker room presence. You can't deny and you can't argue the fact that Mark Ingram isn't one of the best locker room pieces across the NFL, let alone in Saints history. So I think that it would make sense, and I think that it would be a good thing to have in the locker room somebody who can get everyone amped, get everyone juiced, and get everyone ready to go to war on Sundays. That being said, the production isn't what it used to be. We saw the stats, we saw the inconsistencies, and he is getting older. 13 seasons is a long time. It really is a long time, but there is continuity and familiarity. So if you don't go and get somebody in the draft that you absolutely love, if you want to go ahead and bring in somebody to replace Eno Benjamin, essentially, I think that Mark Ingram is a good guy to go do that. That being said, the running back room could get very, very crowded. And my take on it as a whole, Mark Ingram is a Saints legend through and through. There's no doubt about that. In my lifetime, and I'm one of those people who believes, yes, you have quality players like Marcus Colston, like Sam Mills. You have incredible players like the Deuce. But I didn't get to watch Sam Mills or the Deuce play. So in my lifetime, Mark Ingram is one of the biggest Saints legends. And in my opinion, he is one of the biggest Saints legends. If the Saints get an injury or they need some help mid-season and he's available, why not? Sure, go get him for a depth piece. Go get him for somebody, Eric, go get him as somebody who can help boost the locker room and be a good leader for a young or otherwise young team. That being said, otherwise, I think going and getting somebody in the draft like a Tyjae Spears, a Jahmyr Gibbs, even a Zach Charbonnet, I think that's a good option. Deuce Vaughn, also an option if you want to run it back with Deuce. Deuces seem to do well in New Orleans, so it might make sense. But I think it just makes more sense to get younger and get cheaper at that position. So I want you to chime in for me, Who Dat Nation. Should the Saints run it back with Mark Ingram? Would you run it back with Mark Ingram? Type R for, yeah, I'd run it back. Or type L for, nah, I'd just leave it alone. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video, so if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, take advantage of it. Scroll down, share your thoughts, and by the time you hit paste on your comment, you'll scroll back up and we'll be playing again. All right, Seth Centipede, he is one of our comment MVPs of our bi-weekly live show. Shout out to you, Seth. Thank you for being a legend. Would you rather go get Calijah Kancey or Mazi Smith? I'm going to say I'd rather get Calijah Kancey. Hold on. Calijah Kancey is one of those guys, I think he could be a massive addition to the Saints offensive line. But that being said, I also think that there is high risk but high reward. Mazi Smith, he's an impressive athlete at his size at 6'3", 323 pounds. He plays with great power, solid tackler, carries his weight very, very well. But he's a little bit slow off the snap. He has some good traits, but not that great of production, and he doesn't finish in the pass rush as well. Whereas Calijah Kancey, he is a player that is very quick. He's bursty. He's disruptive as hell. He has good usage of his hands, giggity. He also wins a lot of leverage in those aspects, but he gets smoked by double teams. He's undersized and he has short arms. There's an Aaron Donald comp. And as y'all saw on the defensive line, there's a need at defensive interior. So I think either of these would be good options. Seth, thank you for asking your question. If you want to ask any other questions, if you ever want to, chop it up and see what's good with the Who Dat Nation, DM me, shoot me a follow, hit me up, tweet at me, Instagram, tag me, whatever you want. I'm at TraceGerard48 on both platforms. I'm also on TikTok at TraceG1234, so feel free to hit me up there. I love talking to the Who Dat Nation. Hit me up. I'd love to chop it up with you guys. So let's get this next question in from Andrew. Should the Saints go and trade for Devin White? Interesting question. Devin White, he requested a trade recently. The Bucs didn't want to trade him, but he doesn't want to be with the Bucs anymore. You have a need at linebacker, and we can take a look at the depth chart. Shout out to Producer Seeps for this elite executive producing right here on the fly. Pete Werner, he is good when he plays, but he has health issues. Demario Davis, he's not getting any younger, and you saw the production dip last year. Now, in terms of Zach Bond, Andrew Dowell, maybe those are guys that you can trust, and maybe those are guys that you get a little bit better production out of, and maybe they step up, but I'm not sure they necessarily do 100%. Devin White, though, the kid is out of LSU. He's 25 years old, I believe. Don't let the numbers confuse you. Don't let 124 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. Yeah, that's good. That's really, really good. But he was not good in coverage. He was getting burned left and right. He puts up good tackles, but he's just not somebody that in coverage can do a lot for you. So I don't know if I would go and sign or if I would go and trade for Devin White. Plus, for some reason, I feel like the Bucs would try and fleece you, and why help out the Bucs? They're in kind of a really bad situation. So I personally wouldn't, but that's just me. So let's get this next question in. And actually, Who Dat Nation, also let me know, would you trade for him? Type T for trade, type P for pass. But let's go ahead and just get into the next question from Lord Buddy Bear. Thoughts on Williams, the linebacker prospect from Tulane? My guy, producer Seatman, is one of the best producers I've ever seen. He cooked up this graphic for us real quick. 131 tackles, 5 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss for the Green Wave. Dorian Williams, I think, could be a good option. As we said just a second ago, you have a need at the linebacker position. He has long arms and really good speed, great burst and great closing speed. 17 tackles in the Cotton Bowl versus USC. He wasn't messing around. He was getting in them Trojans. Pause. I did that intentionally. He had a 4.49 40, about just under 4.5 seconds. That is awesome. He played a lot of special team snaps. He has really, really good value. In terms of the negatives for him, he's light. He leaves his feet too much. He reads in anticipation, but they're not necessarily always there. And he has some issues taking on blockers, but his length and his size does help. So I like Dorian Williams. I think this would be a pretty good pick. And again, producer Seaman is the best in the game. What say you, Who Dat Nation? Would you draft Dorian Williams? Type D for draft, type P for pass. He's a linebacker at Tulane. Could you team him up with Tyjae Spears and just keep the New Orleans love going? I think that'd be a lot of fun. Let's get into the next question, though, from Black Dollars University. Should we trade back to acquire more picks instead of being content at number 29? I think that going at 29, I like the value at 29. I mean, you went and traded, you made an effort to trade Sean Payton to get a first-round pick. And yes, you could use that pick to go get something you need, or you could go and get future assets, get future picks, accumulate some of that back. I think you just stay at 29, though. I think that there's some quality players that you can go and get. Depending on how far back you would trade and depending on who it's with and what players are available, sure, you can make the argument that trading back would make more sense. But if it's me, if I'm in the war room, I'm going to stay at 29. I'm going to pick a player more likely on the defensive line that can help boost my roster and help make an impact today, because day one draft picks are supposed to help you out day one. So let's go to Courtney, one of our other common MVPs and a legend here at Saints Now by Chat Sports. Would you rather take the best wide receiver or best linebacker available in the first round, I'm assuming? So If it's best player to player, just best wide receiver or best linebacker, that's Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best wide receiver. Linebacker, Drew Sanders, Miles Murphy, I believe, out of Clemson is his name. There's a Clemson linebacker that's really high. That's really, really good. Producer Seeps is on the ball today. I had these 3 draft targets as players that you can go and get. Drew Sanders, Jack Campbell, late day 1, early day 2 picks. Ivan Pace, if you want to go get him later on in the draft. I would say go get the best available linebacker because that's a bigger position of need, but that's just me. So let's get to Cameron. Nice picture, Cam. Is this Cam Jordan under his cover? Is this a burner?
Might
be, Seeps. We got to keep an eye on that. All right, so thoughts on the Saints trading for Dalvin Cook? Well, fortunately, Cameron, producer Seatman is our Vikings guy, and he is in charge of all our Vikings content, and he has this sick graphic that I'm going to have to throw up for you guys. So 264 carries, 1,100 yards, 4.4 yards per tote, 8 touchdowns in 2022 for the Vikings and Dalvin Cook. That being said, he's kind of old. He's gotten a wash. And those nerds and those dweebs over at PFF, they have this interesting statistic where it's rushing yards over expected. So here in 2021, 2020, I'm going to use this as an example. It's 0.81. So for every carry that was expected to get X amount of yards, he got 0.81 yards extra on top of that. In 2022, that number is negative, meaning he was getting less than what was expected. Let's just call it how it is. Dalvin is cooked. Dalvin Cooks is cooked. You see what I did there? And I like to think I'm kind of funny. I like to think I'm entertaining. I don't think that he's a guy that the Saints really need. I don't think he's a guy that would bring much value to the Saints. We've talked time and time again, draft a running back. And for the same reasons, I wouldn't go and splurge on a guy like Saquon Barkley or go and get a guy like Zeke, Leonard Fournette, or any of the other available running backs that are Austin Eckler, for example. Go get a running back in the draft. It's cheaper, it's younger, fresh talent, fresh legs, and I think that's the best move for the Saints. But let me hear it, Who Dat Nation. If the Saints were to trade for Dalvin Cook, what would be your one-word reaction? Mine would be why or dumb. It just would be a dumb move. But let me know, Who Dat Nation. I'll be interacting with y'all in the comment section. A couple more questions to get to. Let's break it down from Chris. Which 2 players do you honestly feel will fall to us in the first and second rounds? So, I think that Calijah Kancey, he's not somebody that would fall necessarily. I don't think he's a guy that could, because he's kind of projected to go in that range of late first round. I would say Calijah Kancey, I guess. Second player that could fall. A Jordan Addison, definitely a Zay Flowers. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those wide receivers falls. There's been a lot of buzz that a lot of teams don't actually have as high of grades on the wide receivers as some of the reports and some of the people that have been talking about it. So I would say a wide receiver for sure. Maybe there's a cornerback or a safety that falls as well. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Zay Flowers and or Jordan Addison are available at number 29 overall. Last question, we're going to go back to Seth because he's my guy. Why are all the below average players great locker room guys? Well, it's yin and yang. You got to be really good in one spot and you have some issues here, or you can be and then you're really good in one spot and you have some issues here. I'm just kidding. But, is DeMario Davis below average? Is Derek Carr below average? Granted, he's not been in the locker room long. Chris Olave, I would make an argument he's been a good locker room guy so far. Tyrann Mathieu, he's been great. He's a great locker room guy. Marshawn Lattimore, great. I wouldn't say all of our below average players are great locker room guys, and I wouldn't say all of our great locker room guys are below average. I think there's just a good mix of quality leadership and quality talent that, coincides with each other. You get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you make a nice little football baby. It happens. So, Who Dat Nation, I want to remind y'all one more time, please feel free to subscribe for free Saints content every single day. The more subs we get, the more content we can push out. We're trying to get to 15K by the end of the offseason, so help us out. Subscribe, lock us in. Y'all stay golden. We'll catch you next time.